Anya Sharma's hands moved with practiced, quiet precision, preparing her son Leo's morning meal in the pre-dawn hush. Her gaze, though tender on his sleeping form, tightened briefly on a stack of medical bills. The sprawling corporate call center hummed with the artificial glow of 1,000 screens, a labyrinth of cubicles where individual effort often felt lost. Anya navigated the maze, a polite nod for each colleague, her presence as understated as the beige walls. At her desk, she arranged her pens, keyboard, and monitor with almost ritualistic precision. For Anya, this wasn't just a workspace. It was a fortress of order against the chaos of the outside world, a place where meticulousness was her shield and her currency. A wave of superficial charm preceded Marcus Thorne as he swept through the office, a confident smile plastered on his face. He exchanged boisterous jokes with various staff members, his laughter echoing a little too loudly. As he passed Anya's cubicle, his gaze flickered, landing on her for a fraction of a second. "Still at it, Anya. Your endless patience is truly something else," he remarked, a dismissive nod accompanying the backhanded compliment before he moved on, leaving an uneasy silence in his wake. Meanwhile, in the quieter realm of the IT department, a new face settled in. Elias Vance, unassuming in his standard-issue uniform, meticulously arranged his own workstation. Later, he embarked on a slow, deliberate walk through the call center. His sharp eyes absorbed the subtle dynamics, the forced smiles, the hushed complaints, lingering briefly on Anya's focused concentration, then on Marcus's back as the executive vanished into his glass-walled office. Elias was new, an unknown variable, and he missed nothing. Late afternoon found Anya reviewing a routine budget report, her brow furrowing slightly. A minor anomaly, easily overlooked by less diligent eyes, snagged her attention. A tiny discrepancy that whispered of a software glitch. She corrected it with a few swift, precise keystrokes, dismissing it as inconsequential. In the next cubicle, Elias, ostensibly fixing a colleague's computer, paused, his peripheral vision registering Anya's meticulous focus. A seed of curiosity had been planted, unnoticed by either of them. When the boss blames, errors, everyone looks at the quiet clerk. But she knows her work. The weekly team meeting was a ritual of corporate jargon and thinly veiled accusations. Marcus Thorne, impeccably dressed as always, stood at the head of the conference room table, a budget report glaring on the projector screen behind him. His voice, usually a smooth purr of charm, took on a stern edge. "As you can see, we have some persistent accounting discrepancies. Unacceptable, frankly." His gaze, sharp and calculated, flicked to Anya, then back to the room, but the message was clear. "We need meticulous attention to detail from everyone." Colleagues shifted, a few casting nervous, knowing glances Anya's way. She felt the weight of their unspoken judgment, a target painted on her back without a single direct accusation. Her posture stiffened, but her face remained impassive. Marcus's smile returned, a predatory flash in his eyes. "She checks every digit. Her records are perfect, so why is she being blamed?" Later that day, long after the fluorescent lights of the call center had dimmed and most desks were deserted, Anya was still at her cubicle. The words "accounting discrepancies" echoed in her mind, a cruel, unjust accusation. She poring over spreadsheets, cross-referencing every single entry from the past quarter. Her fingers, usually so swift and precise, moved with a frustrated urgency. Each number, each transaction log, each invoice was re-verified. And with every perfect match, every flawless calculation, a knot of worry tightened in her stomach. Her work was impeccable. She knew it. So why was Marcus so determined to make it seem otherwise? The unfairness of it all gnawed at her, a silent battle waged against an invisible enemy. While everyone sleeps, the new IT guy uncovers a digital trail of lies. In the hushed, cool confines of the IT server room, Elias Vance moved with the quiet efficiency of a shadow. The rhythmic hum of the servers filled the air, a white noise for his clandestine operations. Under the guise of late-night system maintenance, Elias delved into the network logs, his focus sharp and unwavering. He wasn't looking for routine errors. He was hunting for anomalies in financial system access. His eyes, illuminated by the flickering monitor screens, tracked unusual login times and suspiciously large data transfers. The digital breadcrumbs led him, time and again, to Marcus Thorne's account. The pattern was undeniable, aligning precisely with the discrepancies Marcus had so casually mentioned in the meeting. Elias's internal analytical thoughts confirmed his growing suspicion. This wasn't a glitch. It was a deliberate digital footprint. Her son's smile is her strength. Her job is his future. She can't afford to lose either. Back in her modest apartment, the sterile corporate world melted away, replaced by the comforting warmth of home. Anya gently helped Leo, her son, through his evening therapy exercises. His cheerful resilience, a bright, unyielding flame, was a stark contrast to the simmering stress she carried from work. As Leo giggled, reaching for her hand, Anya's gaze drifted to a framed photo on the nightstand. Leo, beaming, his smile a sunlit promise. It was for him. Every late night, every veiled insult, every unfair accusation, she endured for him. Her job wasn't just a paycheck. It was Leo's future, his medical care, his hope. She steeled her resolve, the love for her son a powerful, unwavering shield against the encroaching darkness of her workplace. He's piling on the work, setting her up to fail. But he doesn't know who's watching. The next morning, Marcus Thorne summoned Anya to his office. He leaned back in his plush chair, a daunting stack of papers on his desk. "Anya," he began, his voice dripping with feigned concern, "I need you to handle this. A complete reconciliation project for the quarterly budget. Highly complex, extremely time-sensitive." He pushed the stack towards her. The sheer volume and the unrealistic deadline screamed sabotage. "I trust your meticulousness," he added, his lips curling into a smile that didn't reach his eyes. Those eyes, however, betrayed a predatory satisfaction, a glint that told Anya this wasn't about trust. It was about a trap, openly laid, and she was meant to walk right into it. She accepted, her polite but firm nod masking the tremor of dread. The diner's quiet hum was replaced by the stark silence of Elias's workstation, late into the night. Rows of code scrolled like ancient hieroglyphs across his screens, illuminated only by the cool glow of his monitors. Here, amidst the digital labyrinth, Elias Vance was a hunter. He traced a series of large, irregular transfers, following the digital breadcrumbs from the company's accounts to a shadowy shell corporation. Each click of his mouse was a step deeper into Marcus Thorne's meticulously crafted web of deceit. He cross-referenced these transactions with Marcus's unusual login patterns. Late nights, early mornings, times when no one else was looking. The numbers didn't lie. Every data point confirmed his suspicion. Marcus Thorne wasn't just incompetent, he was a thief. The quiet IT guy had found his first piece of concrete evidence. Meanwhile, Anya Sharma, oblivious to the digital detective at work, hunched over her cubicle desk, the only light in the cavernous office. Her eyes, red-rimmed with exhaustion, blurred over the endless spreadsheets of Marcus's reconciliation project. The task was a deliberate cruelty, a mountain of conflicting figures and impossible deadlines. As she meticulously cross-referenced entries, a chilling realization dawned. These weren't errors or discrepancies. This was sabotage. Fabricated entries, subtly altered dates, deleted records that vanished like ghosts in the machine. A cold dread seeped into her bones. Marcus wasn't just blaming her, he was actively rigging the game, building a case for her downfall. The knot of worry in her stomach tightened into a hard, painful ball. The next morning, as Anya tried to gather her thoughts, a quiet presence appeared at her cubicle. Elias Vance, the new IT guy, leaned against the partition, a professional, reassuring smile on his face. "Morning, Anya. Noticed your system's been a little sluggish lately," he began, his voice calm. "Just doing some routine optimization. Mind if I take a look, install a few updates?" Anya, desperate for any reprieve, for any sign of help in her isolating struggle, hesitated for only a second. "Oh, thank you, Elias. That would be wonderful." As she granted him access, Elias's fingers moved swiftly across her keyboard, installing what appeared to be standard updates. But beneath the surface, a covert monitoring program took root. a silent digital sentinel guarding Anya's system. That night, in the privacy of his apartment, Elias received an encrypted video message. The screen flickered to life, revealing the grave, determined face of Mr. Sterling, the company's rarely seen silent partner. Elias, Sterling's voice was firm, authoritative. Your preliminary findings confirm our suspicions. Marcus Thorne's embezzlement is far more extensive than anticipated, and his attempts to frame Ms. Sharma are despicable. Elias listened, his own expression grim. The digital breadcrumbs are clear, sir. He's been systematic. Sterling nodded. Good. Gather irrefutable evidence. Prepare for a full audit and IT review as far as Thorne will know. The time for observation is over. Justice will be served, Elias. The screen went dark, leaving Elias with a clear, grave mandate. The office was quiet, save for the hum of distant servers. Marcus Thorne, believing himself alone, slipped into Anya's cubicle, a predatory smirk playing on his lips. His fingers danced across her keyboard, covertly accessing her shared drive. With practiced ease, he dragged and dropped a fabricated document, a damning report detailing Anya's supposed misconduct, into her project folder. The final piece of his elaborate frame was in place. He leaned back, a silent, triumphant chuckle escaping his lips. But Marcus was not alone. Miles away, in his secure home office, Elias Vance watched it all. The covert monitoring software streamed a live video log, capturing Marcus's every furtive movement, every digital timestamp. The villain thought he was getting away with it, but a hidden camera had just recorded everything. He found the evidence. She's trapped. But the real evidence is still hidden. The next morning, the corporate labyrinth felt colder, sharper. Anya, still reeling from the previous day's impossible task, was summoned to Marcus Thorne's office. He sat behind his sleek desk, a predatory gleam in his eyes, a fabricated document displayed prominently on his screen. Anya, he began, his voice laced with feigned disappointment. I'm afraid I've discovered something quite disturbing. He gestured to the screen. This confidential report, detailing significant discrepancies and unauthorized budget reallocations, it was found on your shared drive, a clear case of gross misconduct. An HR representative, a woman with a perpetually neutral expression, sat beside him, her notepad already open. Anya's breath caught. She stared at the document, a wave of nausea washing over her. It was the trap. Her meticulousness, her unwavering dedication to accuracy, was being twisted into a weapon against her. She tried to speak, but only a choked gasp escaped. Marcus leaned back, a triumphant smirk playing on his lips, hidden from the HR representative but starkly visible to Anya. The game had begun. She's cornered, alone, but the quiet strength inside her refuses to break. Back at her cubicle, the fluorescent lights felt oppressive, the chatter of her colleagues a distant, meaningless hum. Anya sat numbly, the HR representative's cold, formal questions replaying in her mind, Marcus's feigned outrage echoing like a cruel joke. Every fiber of her being screamed in protest. How could they believe such a blatant lie? Her entire career, built on integrity and tireless effort, was being dismantled, piece by meticulous piece. She felt utterly alone, isolated in a sea of indifferent faces. A solitary tear traced a path down her cheek, but she quickly brushed it away. Her eyes landed on a small, worn photo, tucked into her monitor bezel. Leo, smiling brightly, his small hand reaching for a toy. A flicker of warmth ignited within her, hardening her resolve. She wouldn't break. Not for him. Not for herself. She would fight. He's helping them investigate, but he's also building his own case. While Anya wrestled with her despair, Elias Vance moved with a quiet purpose in the IT department. The official IT team, a group of well-meaning but less thorough individuals, had been tasked with a full forensic investigation of Anya's computer. Elias, clad in his unassuming IT uniform, worked alongside them, his calm demeanor a stark contrast to their hurried movements. Just optimizing the network traffic logs for your review, he murmured to a colleague, subtly diverting their attention from the deeper layers of data he was accessing. With practiced efficiency, he ensured his covert monitoring software remained undetectable. More crucially, He secured the metadata of the planted document, carefully making it appear benign to a superficial scan, yet leaving an indelible, recoverable digital fingerprint of Marcus's access. He was a silent ghost in the machine, not just observing but meticulously laying a countertrap. He thinks he's won, he's celebrating his betrayal, but the real game hasn't even started. Later that evening, in the plush executive lounge, Marcus Thorne basked in the glow of his perceived victory. He clinked a glass of whiskey with a nervous junior executive, his smile wide and self-satisfied. "Just a little accounting housekeeping, you understand," Marcus chuckled, his voice a low, confident purr. "These things happen when you trust the wrong people with sensitive data. Fortunately, we caught it in time. The employee in question will be dealt with swiftly." The junior executive offered a hesitant, forced laugh. Marcus, oblivious to the unease he stirred, puffed out his chest. Some people just aren't cut out for this level of responsibility, no matter how much patience they claim to have. He took a long, triumphant sip, dismissing any lingering doubts. Anya's downfall was assured, and his path to continued embezzlement clear. He had won. The silent partner gives the green light. The real investigation begins now. Far from the clinking glasses of the executive lounge, in the quiet solitude of his secure home office, Elias Vance finalized his progress report. He detailed Marcus's sophisticated embezzlement scheme, the manufactured evidence, and the deliberate framing of Anya Sharma. The report, concise and irrefutable, was dispatched through an encrypted channel to Mr. Sterling, the silent partner. Elias waited, the soft hum of his servers the only sound in the room. Moments later, a notification. Sterling's reply was brief, a single line of text on the secure messaging interface. "Proceed with full data extraction and analysis. No stone unturned. Justice will be served." Elias felt a surge of grim satisfaction. The gloves were off. The silent partner's hand had been shown, authorizing the next, more aggressive phase. The hunt for Marcus's hidden financial empire was about to begin in earnest. The truth was a slippery thing, but in the digital realm, it left an undeniable trail. Days melted into nights for Elias Vance in his secure home office. Screens glowed, lines of code scrolled, and an intricate web of data began to form. With the precision of a master surgeon, Elias bypassed Marcus Thorne's personal network security. It wasn't about brute force. It was about understanding the subtle vulnerabilities, the digital fingerprints left behind. Then, the treasure trove appeared. Scanned offshore bank statements, shell company registrations in the Cayman Islands, encrypted emails discussing diverted funds, and, quote, accounting adjustments. Each document, each message was a direct link to Marcus. Elias worked methodically, copying and encrypting every scrap of data, building a comprehensive, irrefutable case. A quiet, grim satisfaction settled over him. The villain's digital vault had been cracked wide open, and the truth was spilling out. While Elias meticulously built his case, Anya Sharma endured a different kind of construction, the careful demolition of her reputation. Marcus Thorne, oblivious to the digital net tightening around him, amplified his public campaign of humiliation. He strode onto the call center floor, a predatory smile fixed, his voice cutting through the hum of activity. "Anya," he called, loud enough for nearby cubicles to hear, "that budget report you submitted? Utterly unacceptable. You're costing the company, Anya. Frankly, your lack of fundamental understanding is baffling." Colleagues glanced, some pitying, some averting their eyes. Anya's face burned, but she kept her gaze fixed on her screen, her hands clenched under her desk. She would not give him the satisfaction of a reaction. Her silence, though mistaken for submission, was a shield, a quiet defiance that held more power than his cruel words. That evening, the cold, sterile air of the office was a distant memory. Anya's apartment, though modest, was a sanctuary of warmth in the cheerful chaos of Leo's world. His crayon drawings, bright, hopeful, slightly askew, adorned the fridge. Anya traced the outline of a smiling sun drawn by her son. The humiliation from Marcus still stung, a raw wound, but looking at Leo's art, a renewed sense of purpose ignited within her. She wouldn't let Marcus win. She wouldn't let him destroy her career, her integrity, or her family's future. Her meticulous nature wasn't just a work habit. It was a cornerstone of her being, They thought she was weak, easily broken. They were wrong. Her fight, she realized, was just beginning. She would find a way, anyway, to fight back. Back in his secure home office, Elias Vance was busy with the final touches of his digital trap. He meticulously crafted a program, a ghost in the machine, designed to analyze the metadata of the fabricated document Marcus had planted on Anya's shared drive. Lines of glowing green code filled his screens, revealing not just Marcus's IP address, but the exact login details he'd used. Then, Elias created a secure, encrypted ghost file. This wasn't just a piece of evidence. It was an automated detonator, programmed to activate and display this damning metadata during a specific system scan. He tested its trigger, a subtle smile playing on his lips. The digital trap was perfectly set. Marcus didn't know it yet, but he was already caught. The corporate office was quiet, save for the distant hum of servers and Marcus Thorne's increasingly loud, slightly slurred voice from his office. He was celebrating, already envisioning Anya's downfall. "She's taken care of," he slurred to a junior executive, oblivious to the tiny, strategically placed microphone hidden behind a potted plant. "No one will ever suspect a thing. A meticulous clerk like her. They'll believe she just snapped." Elias Vance, listening remotely, watched the audio levels spike on his screen. Marcus, confident and slightly inebriated, was confessing everything, unknowingly sealing his own fate. Every boast, every arrogant dismissal of Anya's integrity, was being recorded, clear as day. Elias leaned back, a quiet, victorious glint in his eyes. The verbal proof was now secured. The night before the review meeting, Elias Vance sat hunched over his multi-screen setup in his secure home office. His fingers danced across the keyboard, a symphony of precise clicks and taps. Transaction records, communication logs, network access patterns. Each piece of data, painstakingly retrieved and analyzed, now coalesced into a comprehensive digital dossier. He cross-referenced every detail, every anomaly, until a watertight case against Marcus Thorne emerged, undeniable and damning. He paused, replaying the audio confession from 2 nights prior. Marcus's voice, slurred but clear, detailing the embezzlement and the framing of Anya, echoed in the quiet room. Elias listened, a grim satisfaction settling over his features. The evidence was undeniable. The trap was perfectly set. The sterile HR office felt colder than usual. Anya Sharma sat across from the HR representative, Ms. Evans, a woman whose expression was as unyielding as the polished mahogany desk between them. Anya, her voice trembling slightly but firm with conviction, laid out her findings. The fabricated entries, the deleted records she'd uncovered while attempting Marcus's impossible reconciliation project. "The data was manipulated, Ms. Evans. My records are pristine. Someone is actively sabotaging the system." Ms. Evans merely steepled her fingers. "Anya, we appreciate your thoroughness, but these are serious accusations. Your emotional state is understandable, but we must rely on verifiable facts." Dismissed as emotional and defensive, Anya felt the weight of injustice crushing her as she walked out, the sterile silence of the office echoing her utter defeat. Her last hope was crushed. But a different kind of justice was coming. In his plush office, Marcus Thorne leaned back in his ergonomic chair, a self-satisfied smirk playing on his lips. His fingers hovered over the Send button, a company-wide memo displayed on his screen. It formally announced disciplinary action against Anya Sharma for gross misconduct and financial irregularities. The language was clinical, precise, designed to be irrefutable. He imagined the whispers, the knowing glances among staff as Anya's reputation crumbled. It was foolproof. Anya, the meticulous, the quiet, the one who saw too much, would take the fall, and his embezzlement would remain hidden. He pressed Send, the soft whir of the server confirmation, a triumphant hum in his ears. He was signing her termination papers, unaware he was signing his own. Back in his secure home office, Elias Vance added the final touches to his masterpiece. It wasn't just a presentation. It was a digital reveal, designed to be visually compelling and irrefutable. Every fraudulent transaction, every communication log, Every time-stamped proof of Marcus's digital trespass flowed seamlessly into a narrative of undeniable truth. He tested the Ghost Files activation one last time. A series of quick commands, and the screen flickered, then displayed a live feed of Marcus's personal offshore accounts. Then the metadata proving the planted document's true origin. It would trigger during the upcoming meeting's IT system check, hijacking the screen with the brutal, unvarnished truth. Elias leaned back, a faint, confident smile gracing his lips. The stage was set. The presentation of truth was ready to shock everyone. The silence in Anya's apartment was heavy, punctuated only by the soft hum of the refrigerator. It was the eve of her reckoning, and sleep was a distant memory. She tossed and turned, the accusations from the HR meeting replaying in an endless loop, the formal language of Marcus's memo, a cold knot in her stomach. Her career, her lifeline for Leo's future, seemed on the brink of collapse. She stared at the dark outlines of Leo's room, a silent prayer escaping her lips, a desperate plea for a miracle, for clarity, for a way out. She was utterly unaware that the wheels of that miracle had already been turning for weeks, a silent, intellectual battle fought on her behalf. She faced her last day, broken and alone, but the dawn would bring a truth she never imagined. The polished boardroom felt less like a place of collaboration and more like a tribunal. Anya Sharma walked in, each step heavy, her heart a frantic drum against her ribs. The long mahogany table gleamed under the recessed lights, reflecting the stern faces of the senior executives and the HR representative. Marcus Thorne was already seated, a patronizing smile fixed on his lips, a subtle triumph in his eyes that made Anya's stomach clench. He offered a dismissive wave towards a vacant chair, as if inviting her to her own sentencing. The HR representative, a woman named Ms. Davies, cleared her throat, her voice devoid of warmth. "Ms. Sharma, thank you for joining us. We're here to discuss the gravity of the situation regarding your recent misconduct and financial irregularities." Anya braced herself, the words hitting her like a cold, inevitable wave. This was it. Her career, her future, Leo's future, all about to be extinguished. Just as Ms. Davies prepared to launch into the formal accusations, the heavy oak door to the boardroom swung open. All heads turned. Standing in the doorway was a man rarely seen, a figure of almost mythical authority within the corporation, Mr. Sterling, the silent partner. His presence alone commanded silence, his gaze sweeping the room with a calm intensity that felt like a physical force. Marcus's smug expression faltered, a flicker of raw, unadulterated unease crossing his face, quickly masked by a forced, awkward smile. Anya, however, was utterly bewildered. She knew Mr. Sterling only by reputation, a distant, powerful entity. Why was he here? He offered a brief, commanding nod. "Please, continue. I merely wish to observe firsthand." The words were simple, yet they crackled with an unspoken authority, shifting the very air in the room, making Marcus visibly pale. Marcus, ever the showman, quickly regained his composure, albeit with a slightly strained edge. This unexpected audience, he seemed to decide, was an opportunity to solidify his narrative. He launched into his presentation, a slick performance painting Anya as a careless, dishonest employee. As you can see, quote, he began, gesturing confidently at the large screen displaying a series of manipulated spreadsheets. Ms. Sharma's repeated errors and, frankly, deliberate omissions have cost the company dearly. He clicked to a slide, revealing the fabricated document he'd planted on Anya's shared drive, his primary piece of evidence. This document, discovered on her personal network drive, clearly outlines a scheme to divert funds. An irrefutable case, I believe. Anya listened, her head bowed, internal protests screaming. Each accusation felt like a fresh stab, her fate seemingly sealed by his articulate lies. Mr. Sterling, however, remained silent, his eyes fixed on Marcus, then briefly on Anya, a watchful, unreadable expression on his face. Marcus finished his presentation with a flourish, a triumphant smirk playing on his lips as he glanced at the executives, clearly expecting their immediate agreement. "Any questions?" he asked, his tone dripping with false magnanimity. It was then that Mr. Sterling spoke, his voice calm, cutting through the tense silence like a razor. "Just one, Marcus. Before we proceed, I'd like to ensure the integrity of the data presented. Elias, he said, turning to the quiet IT guy sitting discreetly in the corner. Would you be so kind as to run a quick system integrity check on the presented data? Live, if you please. Marcus's confident smile vanished, replaced by a confused frown. Elias, however, nodded subtly, a silent acknowledgement of the signal he'd been waiting for. He rose, moving purposefully towards the main screen, his fingers poised, a quiet storm brewing behind his calm facade. Elias approached the screen, his movements precise and unhurried. Marcus watched, a flicker of annoyance in his eyes, assuming this was just a formality. With a series of quick, expert keystrokes, Elias bypassed Marcus's presentation software, his fingers dancing across the keyboard. The screen flickered violently, an unsettling digital pulse. Then, with a dramatic flash, it changed. Instead of Marcus's polished, fabricated slides, a live, dynamic display of raw, irrefutable data blazed forth. Complex network diagrams intertwined with financial ledgers, highlighting a series of large, irregular transactions. Shell company names, offshore accounts, and the digital fingerprint of Marcus Thorne himself, planting the evidence on Anya's drive, all appeared in stark, undeniable relief. Gasps rippled through the room. Marcus froze, his face draining of all color, his mouth agape in choked silence. Anya's eyes widened, a dawning horror and bewildered hope warring within her. The game, he thought, was over. But not for Anya. For Marcus. The main screen in the boardroom, once a canvas for Marcus's carefully constructed lies, now blazed with a different truth. Elias Vance, the quiet IT guy, stood beside it, his voice calm, methodical, cutting through the stunned silence like a surgeon's scalpel. These are direct transfers, totaling $5.7 million over the last 18 months, routed through a series of offshore accounts registered to shell corporations in the Cayman Islands. All linked, via IP address and authenticated digital signatures, to Mr. Thorne. Complex financial diagrams glowed green and red, tracing an undeniable web of deceit. Then, the screen shifted. And here, Elias continued, his gaze unwavering, is the metadata from the document found on Ms. Sharma's shared drive. It clearly shows the document was created and uploaded from Mr. Thorne's personal workstation, late on the evening of October 23, 11:47 p.m. Not Ms. Sharma's? Gasps rippled through the room. Senior executives, their faces pale with shock, turned their horrified gazes from the incriminating display to Marcus Thorne, who stood frozen, a bead of sweat tracing a path down his temple. Every lie, every stolen dollar, every false accusation laid bare on screen. There's nowhere left to run. Marcus Thorne's carefully cultivated facade crumbled. The color drained from his face, leaving it a sickly, ashen gray. His once smooth bluster dissolved into desperate, incoherent denials. No, this is a fabrication. Elias, you're just the new IT guy. What do you know? This is Anya. She's always been clumsy with numbers, always making mistakes. He pointed a trembling finger at Anya, his voice cracking with a pathetic desperation. But his words hung in the air, weak and hollow, lacking any conviction against the overwhelming, undeniable evidence on the screen. Mr. Sterling remained silent, his gaze colder than a winter storm, a silent judge sealing Marcus's fate. Marcus trembled, his eyes darting frantically around the room, searching for an ally, a loophole, anything. But there was only the damning silence, and the weight of the room's judgment crushing him. His empire of lies crumbles. The once mighty boss is now a desperate, exposed fraud. Anya Sharma watched the scene unfold, stunned, as if observing a dream. Tears, hot and unexpected, pooled in her eyes, blurring the damning figures on the screen. The truth, so long obscured by whispers and accusations, now shone with blinding clarity. Her name, once dragged through the mud, was being meticulously cleared, every shred of her meticulousness validated. Her integrity, the very core of her being, was unequivocally proven. Mr. Sterling, from his place at the head of the table, met her gaze. He offered a slight, respectful nod, a silent apology for the injustice she had endured, a profound acknowledgement of her quiet strength. A choked sob of pure relief escaped Anya's lips, a sound she hadn't realized she was holding back for so long. The weight, an invisible, crushing burden she'd carried for weeks, visibly lifted from her shoulders. The truth sets her free. Tears of relief, as her integrity is finally seen. Mr. Sterling raised a hand, a subtle, almost imperceptible command. Elias, understanding, tapped a key. A chillingly clear voice filled the silent boardroom, echoing from the speakers. It was Marcus Thorne's voice, slurred but unmistakable, gloating to a subordinate. Another $5,000 easy. And when they notice the cash missing, that little waitress takes the fall. She's already got the most write-ups. Nobody's going to believe her over me. The recording continued, detailing his scheme, his contempt for Anya, his absolute confidence in his ability to evade detection. The sound of Marcus's own words, his casual arrogance, hung in the air, leaving no room for doubt or denial. His credibility, already shattered, was now utterly annihilated. Marcus himself, hearing his own chilling confession, visibly shrank in his seat, his face contorted in horror. His own words condemn him. The chilling confession leaves no doubt. As Marcus's recorded voice faded, 2 uniformed security officers entered the boardroom. Their presence alone was a statement. They calmly approached Marcus, who finally broke. "No, you can't. This is all a mistake. She's lying. Elias is lying," he shouted, his voice high-pitched and frantic. But his protests, frantic and desperate, were drowned beneath the calm, firm commands of the security officers. They took his arms, their grip unyielding, and began to escort him out. Marcus struggled, shouting denials and threats, his face a mask of furious desperation. His increasingly desperate shouts faded down the hall as the door closed behind them, leaving a stunned, profound silence in the boardroom. Justice had been served. The villain is led away, his reign of terror over. The senior executives, their faces etched with a mixture of shock and newfound respect, began to disperse. Mr. Sterling remained, his gaze fixed on Anya. "Anya Sharma," he began, his voice firm but now softened with genuine warmth. "Your integrity, your meticulousness, it held this company together while a viper tried to bleed it dry. We need that strength at a higher level." He offered her a hand, not in handshake, but in invitation. "We're creating a new position, Senior Financial Integrity Supervisor. It's yours, if you'll have it." Overwhelmed, a genuine, radiant smile broke through Anya's years of strain. A silent nod, a trembling hand clasped in his, sealed her acceptance. From framed victim to empowered leader, her quiet strength was finally rewarded. As the last of the executives departed, Elias Vance quietly approached Anya, a subtle smile gracing his lips. "Anya," he said, his calm voice a stark contrast to the boardroom's recent chaos. "My name is Elias Vance. I'm not just the new IT guy. Mr. Sterling hired me months ago as a forensic accountant." Anya's eyes widened, a dawning comprehension replacing her shock. "Your attention to detail, that software glitch, you reported on your first day, it was the first thread. It confirmed Mr. Sterling's suspicions and gave me the entry point I needed." He explained the depth of the digital investigation, the covert monitoring, and the strategic trap. The IT guy wasn't just fixing computers. He was a silent protector, a digital detective. Tears welled in Anya's eyes, a profound gratitude washing over her. "Elias," she whispered, her voice thick with emotion. You saved everything. My job, my reputation, my son's future." She briefly confided in him about Leo, the silent burden she had carried. Elias listened, a rare, empathetic warmth in his gaze. "Justice always finds a way, Anya," he said, his hand briefly, gently touching her arm in a gesture of shared understanding. "Especially for those who persevere with quiet strength and unwavering truth." Their quiet battle, his silent mission. A bond forged in the fires of injustice. Days later, the sprawling call center floor felt different. A tangible lightness had replaced the oppressive tension that once hung in the air. Anya, now walking with a new, confident stride, moved between cubicles. Her colleagues greeted her, not with pity or nervous glances, but with genuine respect and admiration. Murmurs of her bravery, her meticulousness, and the dramatic unmasking of Marcus Thorne echoed softly, replacing the old whispers of fear. Sunlight streamed through the large windows, illuminating smiling faces and a renewed sense of purpose. The shadows were gone. A new era of justice and respect had begun. Anya sat at her new desk, in her new office overlooking the bustling call center. The space was larger, brighter, a quiet testament to her vindication. On her desk, a framed photo of Leo, his cheerful face beaming, stood proudly. She traced its outline with a serene, confident expression. Looking out over the rows of cubicles, she saw not just a workplace, but a landscape transformed by truth. Her quiet strength, her unwavering intellect, had been recognized, not just by Mr. Sterling or Elias, but by the very fabric of the company. Never underestimate the quiet strength of those who fight for truth. Justice always finds its way.